Hi, my name is Peter LeBeau and I've been supporting Arsenal for over 60 years. It seems incredible, but I still have a memory of some of those old games which are warmer and richer than some of the games that were played very recently. I'll be looking back on some of those games, and also I'll be looking forward to the game at Bramall Lane this Monday coming to see what I think might happen there. The first time I remember Arsenal playing Sheffield United was in the FA Cup in 1959. Sheffield United were a second division side then, and we were expected to beat them, but only managed a 2-2 draw at Highbury. We were still expected to win the replay at Bramall Lane, but unfortunately our goalkeeper Jagielka broke his arm in that game. There were no substitutes then, and unfortunately we went down 3-0. That was the first FA Cup defeat I can ever remember Arsenal suffering, and that was really also the end of a great goalkeeper in Jagielka's career. After that, we didn't tend to do terribly well at Bramall Lane. I can remember us winning 4-2 in 1967 when Addison and Graham scored for us, but we also suffered some serious defeats. Bramall Lane was a three-sided pitch then. They had a cricket pitch at Yorkshire used to play at Bramall Lane, and therefore it was a strange ground, a bit like Northampton's county ground, and it had a rather unusual and slightly eerie atmosphere. And we didn't tend to do terribly well. There was certainly always a difficult club to go to, and they played traditionally quite good football, perhaps rather different in terms of the image that they have now. There's quite a workmanlike side, although I think that's changing under Chris Wilder, as I'll speak about later on. The first time we really had a very serious rivalry that I can remember with Sheffield United was in 1971. They were the first side to come to Highbury and beat us after we'd done the double. That was a huge culture shock. I can remember they were quite an arrogant side then, led by Tony Curry, and I remember them winning 1-0 in August 71, just after we'd won the double, and it was really very difficult to take that as a defeat. We played them later on in the League Cup that season. We were drawn at Highbury and only managed a 0-0 draw, and went out of the League Cup 2-0 after that. So when we played them in January 1972, we were a bit in fear and trepidation of losing 3 times to Sheffield United in the same season, but we needn't have worried. I can remember the date particularly well because it was my 21st birthday party, and I couldn't go to the game, but I remember following it quite avidly. And we were up very quickly in the game, with Charlie George scoring a couple of goals, and we ended up by winning 5-0. There was quite a furore at the time because with Arsenal winning 5-0, their new signing Alan Ball decided it would be a good idea to take the mickey out of the Sheffield United fans by sitting on the ball. And he did take quite a lot of stick in the press for this. So we did at least get some measure of revenge for the problems we had with Sheffield United in the early 70s. We then lost 5-0 at Bramall Lane in 1973, and Tony Curry took his revenge on Alan Ball by doing exactly the same thing and sitting on the ball when Sheffield United were coasting home to victory. I suppose we couldn't really moan about that in the circumstances. We have had a number of good victories over Sheffield United in the FA Cup, and one of those victories was in 1978. I watched the game on TV recently. It was quite an interesting match where we were 4-0 up in the first half with goals from McDonald and O'Leary and Stapleton, and we looked a very fluid and impressive side and disposed of Sheffield United much more easily than we perhaps thought we would. We didn't play Sheffield United as regularly after that because they were a bit of a yo-yo side and have been really since that period of time. They've been back in the First Division and then Premier League on occasions, but have also fallen down the league, and so most of our games against them have been cup ties in either the League Cup or the FA Cup. And by and large we've done pretty well. We went out to them in the League Cup in the first and only year of Bruce Rioch's reign after a draw at Highbury. But apart from that, we've done very well against them, and we'll go through that perhaps a little bit later on when we look at some of the more notable victories that we've achieved over them recently. We also sealed a very important 2-0 win at Bramall Lane in 1991 en route to the title. That was a very solid side in 1991. It never really perhaps got the credit it should have done, because we only lost that one game in the season, and that game when we were shorn of central defensive resources at Chelsea for various reasons, which we won't go into. But we lost only that one game and won 2-0 at Bramall Lane at the time when we were really coasting to the title. Alan Smith and Kevin Campbell scored the goals, and we looked a very competent and well organised side, which indeed that 1991 side was. We've also played them in various cup ties. We've often drawn, and then recently won a replay in a 0-0 draw. But perhaps the game that's very often remembered is the semi-final at Old Trafford, when David Seaman pulled off that remarkable save from Paul Pescaliddo in the last minute of the game, after we were leading through a Freddie Lundberg goal. We also have rather bad memories of our last Premier League game there. That was in 2006, and in December 2006 we lost 1-0 at Bramall Lane, and one of the most remarkable things about that game is that Sheffield United played the last 23 minutes of that game with Phil Jagielka in goal. The reason for that being that Neil Warnock didn't name a goalkeeping sub, and Paddy Kenny, the Sheffield United goalkeeper, got injured, and Jagielka went into goal. Unfortunately for Arsenal, he proved to be a very capable goalkeeper, and it was one of those nights when we just couldn't do anything about scoring a goal. And a goal just before the break by Nade was enough to give Sheffield United the victory. Since then, we've done pretty well against them. We've beaten them in the League Cup a few months after that game. We went to Bramall Lane again with a pretty much a shadow side. Kieran Gibbs making his debut at left back and doing extremely well in a 3-0 win. That was around the time when Eduardo was showing just what a capable striker he was before that awful injury that he had. And our very last fixture against Sheffield United was in 2008, when we won 6-0 at Highbury at the Emirates. Please beg your pardon, old habits die hard. And we saw a wonderful display with Carlos Vela getting a hat-trick and Aaron Ramsey running the show, and Jack Wilshere showing what a promising player he was. And that whole generation youth experiment looked likely to flourish and develop. Unfortunately, that wasn't really the case, as we now know. So we come to Bramall Lane on Monday. What will happen there? Unfortunately, one can't be terribly confident about Arsenal away from home. They're not the most resilient of sides. It's very difficult to know exactly what Unai Emery is going to do in terms of the formation and the personnel that he's going to choose. It's a game which on paper it looks as if we should win, but I saw the Sheffield United-Liverpool game recently, and Sheffield United were really excellent in that game and only lost the game because of a tragic error by their young goalkeeper on loan from Manchester United, Dean Henderson. They really matched Liverpool and gave them a very tough game, and it wouldn't have been a surprise if Sheffield United had gone ahead in that game. On a Monday night in Sheffield, possibly with bad weather, it brings back memories of that December fixture where we lost 1-0 in 2006. So we do have to be pretty careful about predicting a big Arsenal win. Our form away from home, apart from the Liverpool game, has been pretty steady but not spectacular, and I expect something of the same on Monday night. It's going to be difficult for us up there, but I think that with the attacking quality that we've got, with Lacazette back, and hopefully maybe with Tierney coming in to make his debut and giving us a bit more balance and solidity on the left-hand side, I think we have a very reasonable chance of at least a point. Let's hope so. And let's hope that this is the start of a very important and satisfactory run, taking us towards the top of the Premier League. I'll be speaking to you again soon. Thank you very much.